happy to introduce my next guest to the Letting Go of the Ground series, and this is Sophia Mohr. And Tara and I have known each other, I'm not sure, probably about 6 months to somewhere between 6 months and a year online. And I think we were first connected by a mutual contact, Leanne Raymond. And we did a little bit of a blog circle together where we were blogging about common issues. And it slips my mind at this very moment what we did. But we connected almost right away and developed a bond and a relationship because we had a lot of similarities in our thinking. And then really one of the things that Tara did that was really, I thought, spectacular is hosted the Girl Effect blogging campaign, which really kind of blew the roof off of, I think, her expectations and almost everybody else's. And it was a really wonderful thing to participate in. So Tara, welcome. I'm really excited to have you. And I look forward to hearing your stories. So to start off with, I'm just going to ask you to share some personal story. We're talking about the process of letting go of the ground and really entering, like the caterpillar, entering a chrysalis stage where there's no no real safety, and yet you know that you're emerging into something new and transforming. So if you would start by just sharing some personal story of when you've experienced that.
Yeah. So I want to go back a few years ago, about 3 years ago from now. And at that time, I had a very different career. I was working in the nonprofit sector, working in philanthropy, and I was starting to feel just like life was happening in black and white instead of color. That's kind of the best way I know how to express it. And I kept having this question pop up in my head, and the question was, is this all there is? And I thought, well, that's such a cliche question, right? Like that's an expression. Is this all there is? And I had never had that thought before, but it was sort of spontaneously popping up all on its own. And I just knew I wasn't on my right path, but I didn't really know at all what that right path was. And I was in a lot of pain because it doesn't feel good to be on your not right path. And it felt like that pain was increasing, like it was getting less and less tolerable to be there. And at that time, I kind of just had a very vague intuition, and it just kind of said, oh, you should go, the next thing you should do is go get trained as a coach. And that was something I had thought about before because I had met coaches and I had liked what they were doing and I could see how it related to my interests, but it hadn't felt like the right time before. And this voice was just saying, just go do that. Just go get the training. Don't even plan to be a coach. Don't, plan on changing your career. Just get the training. Do that step next. And I think that part is really important because it felt like walking in a fog where I could only have access to one foot in front of me. So then when I got to the coaching training program, which I loved, and I loved the workshops and all of that, then there was a little voice saying, oh, it's not about coaching. It's not about coaching at all. Go right. Go right. But it took the coaching program and the opening up of self that was part of that coaching program and the coaching I was receiving from other students, even in our classes as we practiced, for me to hear that voice that was saying, right, go right. And really, at the time, and it might be hard for people who know my work now, at the time that sounded like the strangest thing, right? What? Right what? Right? Really? Writing is the main thing? And that's what this voice said. And so I then started finding a way to put pen to paper, which really was not easy at that stage. And what I can tell you now is, oh, I'm a writer, and that's the core of my identity. And I knew that when I was 5, and how the hell did I ever forget in the interim, but I did. And I get more joy and meaning and spiritual connection and euphoria from writing than from anything else.
Sorry about that. You mentioned being in the fog, and I think that's a great way to capture that. And I keep going back to the analogy of the butterfly, the caterpillar entering the chrysalis. And what I didn't realize, I don't think until about a year ago, is that chrysalis stage really is a stage where it has to break down into goo, and it has no resemblance to the caterpillar, but no appearance yet of what it will be, the butterfly, in that gooey stage in the middle. And I'm interested in knowing from your personal story, when you were in that gooey or foggy place, what were the things that you did to help sustain you? Did you have practices that sustained you, or circles that you were part of, or how did you get through that place?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing is I didn't get through it. It didn't feel like I was getting through it gracefully or happily. So I might have had some practices that helped me tolerate that period and helped me stay in it instead of reverting to some comfortable answer that wasn't really the right answer. But that didn't make it feel comfortable or suffering free. And maybe we're expecting too much of ourselves if we think that, if we do yoga and meditate right and whatever, we're going to just lie back and become goo and feel like, oh, I'm just in the goo phase. I'm cool with it. Yeah. So, I was scared a lot. I struggled a lot. I felt a lot like, where am I going? Am I going to come out of this? But there were a few things that really helped. One of those was having a coach. And when I think about that coach, I think of him as just a pure, such a loving energy and a listener. And he was the one that basically every call, he was just saying, what is it that your heart really wants? What did I hear? What was in there? Oh, that. And at the time, I wasn't doing that for myself, and there wasn't a space in my life really for that. Even though I had wonderfully supportive people, they just don't have the skill set to say, no, what's really in there that you're longing for? So that made a huge difference. And then also, I think beginning the path in some way, touching your passion and inspiration is really important. So for me, even though the big picture was unclear, I was writing a blog post every day from pretty early in that process. 14 people were reading the blog. But I was writing the blog post, and I got so much joy in that process that just kept me coming back.
Are you ready to fly?